What's up, gangsters? So I want to share what's I'm seeing that's going to happen in the real estate market, what's going to happen with mortgage rates, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to give you a little bit of economic background as to what's going on behind the scenes. It'll give you a good idea of what we can look at into 2026, which is positive. All right, so I'm going to talk about quantitative easing and quantitative tightening. And what that is quantitative tightening means the government reduces the supply of money they print. We went into a quantitative tightening phase in mid 2022. Well, when they do that, it's because they're trying to sell off debt. Well, when they have to sell off debt, that actually they need to make the bond market attractive enough, the treasury yields, for people to buy that debt, meaning the interest rate, the rate that's paid for people buying US debt has to be higher, which also directly correlates with mortgage rates and keeps them high. So when that happens with the tightening period, which has been from mid 2022 up until now, even though you see the Fed cutting rate points, you don't see a huge dip in the bond market, which affects mortgage rates because they still got to keep that attractive if you're in a quantitative tightening mode as far as what the Fed is. Well, now the Fed has announced that they're going to start releasing that quantitative tightening and move into a quantitative easing phase going into 2026. Well, what does that mean? That means they're going to start printing more money. That means US debt to buying US debt is less attractive because the US is printing more money. But what does that mean for the real estate market? Well, that means with them printing more money, the bond market yields are going to go down, makes debt less attractive to purchase. Well, when those bond market yields go down, guess what else goes down? Mortgage rates, interest rates, all those things. So in a quantitative easing period, they're flooding more money into the market, which creates a cycle which is usually economically pretty good. Now, you got to be careful because it also produces inflation and everything else, so there's a balance. But we've been in quantitative tightening since mid 2022. And because of that, over the last 3 years, we've seen real estate across the country. I mean, I know there's pockets where it's good and bad and all that, but across the country, we've averaged about 40% less homes sold all across the country in that 3-year period, which has been some of the lowest number of sales in history over like 50 years. So that's how tight it's been. So even though homes were selling, it's obviously market specific, but I'm just doing a broad overview of the US. So what does that mean? That means if mortgage rates go down, you're going to have a lot of options because inventory has gone up. So it's not as tight as it was back in 2021, 2022 when people were fighting over houses. So you're going to see an uptick in sales in real estate. You're going to see a downtick in mortgage. Hopefully it will help affordability depending on the balance of how many houses are on the market. And with those rates coming down, a lot of those sellers that were holding on to that rate that need to move up or move down because of family changes will start releasing some of that inventory onto the market because they can afford to buy and move and do what they want to do. So that's the economic kind of background under the radar stuff about what's going on. I just kind of wanted to share it with you. And it all has to do with quantitative tightening and easing. We're about to move back into that good period. So I hope that helps you from an economic standpoint, really goes deep into what's happening way behind the scenes in the real estate market and the positives of what we could see in 2026. Peace.